Okay, good. So it seems not many they heard about it, but actually it's not tools to check the plagiarism. It's not tool for the language mistakes. It's tools to show the copyright and open access. I'll explain that. Don't worry. I'm trying now to see your level. So now Prathya, she's the first runner. Next question, number 4. This is the last one, H index. Okay, not bad. About 13, they got it right. So actually, H index, it's metric to see the citation impact of scientists or researcher, the productivity of researcher. It's not the impact factor of the journal. It's not altimetric. So I'll explain all those things during my seminar. Well done. So the third runner is Mala. Warda is the second runner, and the first runner for today is Prathya. Well done, Prathya. Okay. So why I have introduced this tool for 2 reasons. First, I want to introduce tool for the academic staff to use it for their students if they don't. And there is actually Quizy. There is different tools, not just only Count. Sometimes we use Quizy and other tools. And also, I want to know your background. Okay, so this is the seminar outlines. Let me get the pointer first. So the first part and most of the seminar will focus on different outlines related how to write your manuscript. I'll focus on how to write different sections of the manuscript. And as I told you, it's going to be more practical. So I'll explain the technical tricks and tips that you needed. And then in the second part, how to select and the editorial process. And then in the last part, how to promote your publication. Okay, so I have a question here. Let's imagine this flower, it's your manuscript. So for students, this question, when you should submit your manuscript to your supervisor, while it's at this stage, or at this stage, or this stage, or this stage, what do you think? Can I hear from you just 1 or 2 opinion? Let's say this is number 1, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So
number 4. Number 4.
4. Any other thoughts?
Number 1.
Wow. Okay. Anyone else?
Initial stage, sir.
Number 6.
6. Okay.
Number 3.
So the idea, because from my experience, either as supervisor or even reviewer or editor, the general idea behind this, don't get it perfect, just get it done. So sometimes some students, they just submit to the supervisor, not at first level, at this stage. Actually, it's premature, it's not ready yet, don't do that. But there is another side or another types of students or researcher, they prefer to submit to the supervisor while it's like in stage 6, like this flower. Actually, don't do that because time concern. It will take you really long time. And actually, the publishing process, it will polish your manuscript. So if you submit like this, like stage, let's say 5 or maybe 4, but I prefer 5, your supervisor will review your manuscript, will comment, then the reviewer, when you submit, the reviewer, the editors, they will give comments, and so on and so forth. So before publication, it will be something like this. So don't do it, don't submit to your supervisor at this stage, and also don't wait until it becomes perfect, because it won't be perfect. So can you keep the question? Because of time concern, I'll get all of your question at the end, okay?
Sure, sir, sure.
Okay, so I'll start just with quick introduction before I go how to write different section. Why to publish a research paper? So you have to ask yourself actually, because most of us, they have story to tell. They have conducted research, they have done an experiment, and they have story they want to tell the audience. But sometimes also it's requirement for students for graduation. So we know PhD and master students, they cannot graduate until they publish 1 or 2 manuscripts. For staff, it's requirement for promotion. And some people, they are not academic staff. Can you mute your
Yeah, please can everyone mute, please? It's disturbing the class, please. Thank you.
Okay, some they just publish for their CV or joy or fame. But anyway, any types of publication is kind of contribution to our knowledge. And remember, the research, no matter how it's good, it's incomplete until it has been published. So because I know, especially in the third world, many postgrad students, they complete their PhD and then they just publish their work as thesis. They don't send it to journals, which is wrong. Okay. The other reason, it's not just only for promotion or graduation. Can you see the difference between, this is actually, it's a bit quite old, this illustration since 2012, but even now I couldn't find some updated one, but even now it reflects the fact that the developed countries, they have more publication. That's why the publication or the research, it really contribute into the first world development as compared to the third world or developing countries. So can you imagine for USA, per year, they publish more than 300. Actually, right now, it's more than 500,000 articles. UK, it's almost 100,000. Germany, also 1,000. Malaysia, it's here. It's about, this is 2012. It's about 6,500. It's more than Thailand, but less than Singapore. But actually, right now, in 2020, only University of Malaya published more than 5,000. So as I told you, this is a bit quite old. Only UN, can you imagine 5,000? So I'm assuming from Malaysia, maybe almost more than 25 or 30 articles per year. So this is the top 40 countries by number of publication. So we cannot see from Africa as example, only Egypt, South Africa. This will reflect also the country, the economy, everything actually, the knowledge, the development, and so on and so forth. So that's why we publish. But what about types of manuscript? Because many students, they ask me, is it just only one type? Actually, there is, and some they know just 2 types, the research article, the original articles, and then the review. But actually, there is other types. So all of you, they know the research articles, which will follow the Emirat, the question that I asked you, I will explain it, which is introduction, methodology, result, and discussion, but there is different format. There is review paper, and there is systematic review, which is different types of review. And by the way, usually also I conduct workshops for how to do systematic review and meta-analysis. And my students actually during the first 2 semesters, usually they draft review, narrative review, or systematic review during their first semester. But for review, sometimes some journals, they accept only by invitation. The third type, it's short or rapid communication. So what is that? I'll give you an example. Nowadays, we have the COVID-19. So some researchers, they have just preliminary data, and the study is still going on, and they want just to publish their preliminary data because the urgency, the urgent situation. So when they submit their manuscript with preliminary data, we call it short communications. It does not contain really too much data. We have also in medicine case report. So this is mostly, it's by medical doctor if they, or researcher, if they have certain genetic abnormality in their hospital, they can write just whole manuscript based on one case. We have proceeding paper. So proceeding is if you publish, if you participate in conference, and then some conferences, they ask you to submit whole manuscript. So it's not original article, we call it proceeding paper. we have letter to editor. If you are expert in your area, and then you have comment on technical or you have scientific question about published work. You think that the methodology is not good, or you think there is mistake, or you want to argue the authors of published, then you can write a letter to editor. And usually they publish, but you should be expert and you should support your argument with evidence, because the authors, they will reply as well. We have commentary. So what is commentary? Commentary is to express personal opinion. So also it could be published. I'll just, okay. So I'll show you these articles and remove, or maybe I'll use it. Can you see this? It's personal opinion, but it published in Science, I think. Let me just skip. Yeah. Published in Science. Do you know the impact factor of Science? It's more than 40. So actually, it's written by Yemeni researcher. His name is Hilal Lashwal. He's also having USA citizenship. The title of this commentary, it's The America I Believe In. And he wrote, and it's published in Science. He wrote this commentary after Trump. If you remember when Trump, he banned researchers and scientists from some Middle East countries, like from Yemen, from Iran, to come to the US. So he wrote about it, and it's kind of commentary. And then the last types of manuscript, it's editorial, and usually this is by editor. So I am editor. If I'm in my journal, if I think there is kind of trending topic this year, I can write editorial in my journal. So this is just only for editors. So which types of articles has more citation? Of course, review. This is just to push you to publish review. Usually it gets more citation as compared to articles, and also as compared to conference proceeding. Before I go to the how to write different section, I want to emphasize that really the number of articles that published each year, it's too much. And the recent study, in this study, it's conducted 2014, they are saying that the whole literature, it doubles every 9 years. Recently, it doubles every 5 years. Can you imagine if we have recently 200 million articles published? So within 5 years, it doubles. It becomes 400 million. So, but it's in different discipline. And at the same time, as researcher and student, we have less time to read. All of us, we have other duties. We have the social media, so we spend our times on Facebook, all those things. So you can see also we have less time. So if I ask the students now, how many articles you read per year as master or PhD student? What's the average, the standard average that it will allow you to write your manuscript after you conduct your experiment? Can I hear 1 or 2 opinion? How many average? What do you think?
We keep on reading without counting. I save the wanted articles, Professor.
Okay. Any other opinion? What's the minimum I can say?
If we can manage to read 1 article in 1 day, maybe 300 to 400.
I think 300 is too much if you calculate. Yeah. So to me, it should
I think 100.
100. Okay. So to me, it's between 100 to 200. 100 is maybe for master. For PhD, should go up to 200. So if you divide 200 by 12 months, so it's about 16 or 17 articles per month, which means every 2 days you should read article. And this is not just only in your area. I'm not asking you to read articles in other area, in your area. Also, this is correct for the supervisors, for the academic staff. If you don't do that, you will not be up to date in your area. And how the researcher or supervisors, they do it? Actually, by reviewing their students' articles, and also usually they serve as reviewer for different journals. So please don't reject or decline if some journals, they contact you and request to review article. It's not just only that you are doing favor for the journal, but you are improving your knowledge. So read, and also search the literature and read the updated articles in your area. Okay, so I think I have usually another workshop. Actually, it's how to do literature searching. So I'll not go in depth, but anyway, you have to identify your topic. So usually it's your master and PhD, and then you have to search your topic using relevant keywords. And you have to connect those keywords with certain Boolean or operator, like and, it should be capital, or. There's different tools. It depends on the database, like PubMed or others. I'll not go through, but I assume that all of you know how to search. Because before you conduct your study, actually you have to write proposal. So you have to search the literature, different databases. So it's another story. I'll not go in details. So what are the databases that you have to search? Scopus or Embed. We have Web Science. We have Science Direct. It's the same under Elsevier. It's German database. We have PubMed for biomedicine students or those with biomedicine background. We have CINAHL or EBSCO. It's for CINAHL. It's for nursing and also for education. EBSCO. We have PsycInfo. It's for those that are doing neuro study or psychological study. Not just only databases. We have journal websites. For ProQuest, it's for thesis. If you want to search for thesis, there is a website called ProQuest, but it's subscribed. We have conference proceeding websites. And if you want to cover the gray literature, we have the Google Scholar, we have Midnar. I'm not quite sure if you tried those. To let you know the difference between Web Science and Scopus. Again, this illustration is a bit old because I'm sure now more journals. So each databases have thousands of journals. So Scopus, up to this illustration dates, they have in their how many journals? About almost 20,000 journals. And Web Science about 12,000 journals. So some journals, they are indexed about 11, indexed by both Scopus and Web Science. So the requirement for our students in UM and even for staff, it's to publish in Web Science. So they have to target journals indexed by Web Science. But some of those journals, they index actually in both. Only here you can see only 900 or 1,000 plus, they index only in Web Science. But there is almost 8,000 or maybe now 10,000 indexed in Scopus, and it's not indexed in Web Science. So just look at the requirement for your university. For your graduation, you should submit your journal, your manuscript to the journal published indexed in Scopus or Web Science. And there is tools to check, is it under Scopus or Web Science? I'll explain it later on. Also, there is guidelines, general guidelines before you start your writing. Like for systematic review, you have to follow PRISMA guideline. If you are writing RCT, randomized control trial, there is CONSORT guideline. If you are writing observational study, STROB guideline. Qualitative study, this guideline. Case report care. Those that are working with animal, there is guideline called ARRIVE. And by the way, some journals, if you submit animal study, the first thing they will ask you to complete checklist. It's obtain this checklist from ARRIVE. And if you click, I don't have really time, if you click this link, you will see different guidelines for economic study, for other types of study. Okay, before I go again, this is, I think, the last, before I go to different section, I want to discuss the authorship, the acknowledgement, and the corresponding authors, because some, they have question about it. Actually, who deserves the authorship? Those they involve or contribute in the designing of the experiment, in the collecting of data, in the analysis, interpretation. So it's not just only analysis. If I hire someone to just run experiment and he or she does not involve in the interpretation of the result and does not involve in reviewing the article, should not deserve authorship. We should acknowledge, because it's kind of technical. I can send this essay to be done by a service, by company. So they should at least involve in interpretation of the result. Okay, so who deserves the acknowledgement? If it's just technical help, just help in collecting data, help in survey. So you give this guy different survey, and you asked him to distribute those survey into his university or her university, so they deserve to be acknowledged, not to be part of authorship. Language editing also, they should not involve actually in the authorship, it's in the acknowledgement. The corresponding author in UM, our guideline, it should be the supervisor is the corresponding. So who is the corresponding author? He's the one who usually after the publication, the other researcher, they contact him or her as corresponding if there is any, and he's the one who will be responsible for the whole manuscript. So if there is any misconduct, the corresponding author, he will be the PI and responsible for this manuscript. Here we go. So let's move how to remove this one. Okay, or how to. Okay. So how to write different section of the articles. I made it in different shape. Have you realized that? So this is the Emirate shape, and it's of course title, and then abstract, introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. Have you noticed that, let's say, introduction, it's in triangle form, and it's flipped triangle, while discussion is triangle, but it's the tip of triangle is to the top. Method and result is in rectangle and abstract. I'll explain it in a minute. So actually, introduction, it's just to answer why did you do the study? Because as a reviewer, a supervisor, when I look at the introduction, some students or some also researcher, they write about 3 or 4 pages of introduction. It's literature review. It's not anymore introduction. Literature review, actually, it's for pieces. The only thing that you have to address in the introduction, it should be half page or 1 page only. You should address this, the rationale of your study, to answer this question. So put in your mind when you write your introduction, why did you do the study? The methodology, to answer what did you do, the procedure, what's the steps and statistical analysis, the tools, the materials, what did you do? The result section, to answer this question, what did you find? The findings, what's the finding of your study? And then the discussion, how does your study contribute to your field? So why this is flipped triangle? Because when you start writing your introduction, you have to start your argument for rational or gap of the literature from broad perspective. So if you are writing, let's say, about opacity, don't start with very focused, start with very broad perspective, and then try to narrow down until you end your introduction with the aim of your study. While in the discussion, it's the other way around. You have to start with very focused statement about the main finding of your result. You have to discuss the main finding, and then you have to expand it a lot, expand it a bit by discussing the other significant result, then discuss the non-significant result, then expand it more by comparing your finding with other studies, the similarities and difference, and then the limitation of your study, the implication of your study. So you see, you start from very focused perspective, and then you expand your discussion. Okay, so actually it's the same. So usually, as I told you, the classical format, it's Emirate. Emirate stands for introduction, method, result, and discussion. So the introduction, in the introduction part, what you have to write, 3 things: general background about your topic, and then the current state of the field, and then what's the gap in the literature or problem in the field that you want to address. And your introduction will end with the aim by saying, hence or therefore the study aimed to to address what you have introduced as gap in the literature or problem or rational or so this is, and it shouldn't be too long. It should be just one or 1.5 pages. Okay, and one mistake usually the research and students they do when they introduce the literature, I mean the current state of the field, they cite very old reference. Actually, for the introduction, we don't accept more than 5 years old references. We can accept very old references for the methodology or for discussion because you are comparing your result with very old data. But for introduction, it should be up to date. Okay. In the method section, of course, you will focus on the, it depends on your experimental design, on the materials, on the equipment, on the subjects, if it's on human, samples, probing if it's in animals, then general and specific methods. So you should have different subsections. I will explain each section in details. And your methodology should end with statistical analysis, unless you don't have it. Most, again, students, they forgot about statistics, even in their proposal. In the results section, it should contain figures and tables, different illustrations, and you should start with paragraph and after that the figure by summarizing the key important or significant data of the first table of first figure. I have seen some manuscript, they just put the figures and tables without any description. This is one mistake, usually the students, they do it, but the other mistake, sometimes during the result, the students, they start to discuss their finding. Leave the discussion to the discussion section, unless the journal, it does not follow the Emirate, because some journals, they merge both result and discussion together. So in this case, yes, you can summarize your result and then just say, these findings indicate or suggest, so you will discuss your result. The other format of some journals, like scientific report, it's under Nature. They will their format, it's introduction, and then they jump to result, discussion, and then the methodology is the last part. So you have to check the journal format. And then in the discussion section, what you should write, as I told you, it's the tip of the triangle. You should start with the major finding or major conclusion. And then the key or the significant finding here, the relevance of your finding. You will compare your finding with other studies, the similarities and difference, and then the limitations or unexpected result. So if you have negative result, you have to explain it. Some they forgot to explain it during the discussion. After limitation, the implication of your result, and if there is any future directions, and you will end your discussion with the conclusion. So I have a question here. This is the Emirate, how the sequence of the manuscript. But when you write your manuscript, which part or which section you start first? Most researchers, most students, they start with the title abstract. Actually, it's wrong. The title, it's the last part that you should write it, even the abstract. Actually, you should start with methodology. Why? Because right now you are conducting your research. So you are doing your methodology. So don't wait until you conduct the whole experiment. Since you know your methodology, just start drafting your methodology. Then after that, any result you get, analyze your result, and then draft your result. Put the figures, tables, describe your result. After that, write your discussion. And after discussion, you have to write your introduction, because some, when they start writing their introduction, it's, to me, when I read it, it's more to discussion, because they, and immediately I realized that they started with their introduction before their discussion. If they start writing discussion, then they will have, they will know what they should write in the introduction to answer the question, why you have conducted this study. And then after that, the last part, it's abstract and title. So it's flipped design.
Hello, Professor.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption.
Sorry?
I said sorry for the interjection.
It's okay. Okay. So I'll get your questions.
Yes, I just want to know. So at what point will you do a little literature review? Just a little. At what point of this manual writing will you have to do literature review?
Okay, so I'd prefer actually to give the question at the end, but I'll answer this question. But please keep your question until the end, because I'll cover most of your question, I'm sure, during the way. Actually, in the thesis, yes, or in the proposal, yes, you have to write literature. But here, actually, part of the literature, it's not literature, it's when you write your background or the introduction, you will summarize the up-to-date studies. So it's part of the introduction. And of course, you will compare your result during the discussion. But we call it, it's not, it's part of the introduction. It's not literature, complete literature review as you write in your thesis or proposal. Let's start by different section. I'll start by the title. So remember, the title, it should be catchy. Why? For different reasons. The first reason, it's the main advertisement for your article. So most of the reader, when they read the title, they stop after that because it's not reflect sometimes the work or it's not catchy. So it should reflect also the content of your manuscript. It should be short, focused, accurate, and it shouldn't be too long. The advice, it should be between 10 and 20 words. Okay, and usually the journals and databases, they use this title for abstracting and indexing, how to index or to, that's why when you search Google for certain topic like obesity or cancer, why different articles it comes first or others it comes after that? Because they selected the right keywords and the right title, because the journals, they use this title for indexing. So try to make your title represent your work. Try to avoid words like a study of. It's because you have 10 or 20 words. Try to use it's additional word. It's not important, or investigation into or observation on. Try to avoid jargon, because sometimes some words it's just only known by you or those in the area, but you are now publishing your article for other audience from like if you are neuro pharmacologists, some neuropharmacologists, they use just only jargon word, which is just relevant. Even medical other doctors or other research and biomedical, they don't understand it. So try to avoid it. What are different types of titles? How we can write the title? So you see, I'm trying to explain now more practical or tricks for each section. So there is different format of title. There is question format, like here, and sorry, I just selected titles related to medical background, but it applies for any discipline. So here so it's question format, can ischemic reconditioning improve progressive after coronary artery bypass surgery? So it's question. Yes, there's different articles, it starts with question. The British style, so those journals, they have the British style. Usually they use the statement of conclusion. Sorry, this is the US style. It's not the British. So they use the American people. They are so direct. They use the statement of conclusion and the present tense. So it's the same title, but you see, they make it ischemic preconditioning improves prognosis after coronary artery bypass. So they use the statement of conclusion. British, they use descriptive or topics or variable, like evaluation of or prognostic effect of ischemic reconditioning in coronary artery bypass patient. And there is also sometimes you add the method at the end, which is a hanging title, systematic review or randomized control trial. So if you are targeting USA journal, I mean this journal published under databases belong US, it's better to use the statement of conclusion. If you are targeting journal using the British style, better to go for the descriptive style, topic or variable. Keywords, so I have finished the title. For keywords, most of the journals, they request to submit a list of keywords after the abstract. Usually it's just 4 to 6 keywords. So again, it should be, it's usually they use it, the journals, for abstracting and indexing. So you have to pay attention to keywords because it will make your article more visible to others. So you have to choose the right one keywords, okay? Abstract, let's move to the abstract. The abstract, it should stand alone. So if someone just read your abstract, he will understand the whole topic. Most of the journals, they requested between just only 200 to 300 words. So within this, you should have your problem statement, just one line, then the objective or the aim of the study, brief methodology, and then in the result, not all the finding, just the significant finding and conclusion, because in the result section later on, you will explain non-significant. There is different format for abstract. We have some journals, they prepare structured, other journals, non-structured. So what's the difference? The structure, you should put the word background and aim, then methods, results, conclusion. If it's unstructured, you will remove those, delete those words. In the abstract, don't overestimate, don't exaggerate, because some, they claim something in the abstract. When you go as editorial or as reviewer, when I go and read the result, see the result, actually there is no finding it support what they have mentioned in the abstract. So sometimes some researchers, they want to get the attention of the reviewer. But once we reach the result, we realize they are overestimating or exaggerating, then we just reject the whole manuscript. So ensure that all the claim, it's based on the evidence. Remember, it should be written last, after you write your result and discussion. I think it makes sense. You should not add any citation or figures or tables in the abstract. But if it's extended abstract, sometimes for conference, sometimes they ask to add table or figure or citation. But for manuscripts, don't. So this is the structure of abstract. It should start with background or problem statement or rationale, and then it's just one line, and then the aim of the study. Brief methodology, so don't write your methodology in details. If you are following any well-known method, just say like for us, we are doing cytotoxicity. For cytotoxicity or cell viability as anti-cancer, we use MTT assay. Everyone in the field, they know this method. If there is animal experiment or survey based, just mention what types of survey you use. So it's brief, because remember, you have 200 words. And then in the result, the significant finding. So only the important outcomes. And finally, the conclusion, it's the implication, relevance, and the recommendation. Sometimes after abstract, have you seen some journals, they request graphic abstract? Some journals, they request highlights. So what is graphic abstracts? You know, the new generation, they prefer some visual shape or illustration to understand the topic. They don't have time even to read the abstract. So some journals, especially the Science Direct, Elsevier, they started to request each researcher to draw graphical abstract, which again, it should reflect the whole manuscript and it should reflect the abstract. I'll show you one example here. So the graphical abstract will help the reader to see your article. And sometimes you use this graphical abstract to promote your work by just sharing this graphical abstract in Twitter, in LinkedIn, or so on and so forth. So this is example of graphical abstract. If some of you, they are not, it's one of our actually articles, published articles. So this is the abstract under Elsevier, and this is the graphical abstract. So as you can see, it reflects some of the data, the methodology, everything. Let's go back to, so you have to be creative when you design your, if the journal requested. The highlights, it's actually in bullet point, it summarizes your study. So it's the statement of conclusion, but in bullet point, but few journals, they request that. Let's move after the graphical abstract to the introduction. Remember, you should start from general introduction, general background, about your topic, and then try to narrow down until you end up with your hypothesis and then the aim of the study. So it starts with general introduction. You have here the literature, the one that you have asked. Let me just get the pointer. Current state of article and should be up to date. Usually as editor or as reviewer, if I look at the introduction and there is no updated references, most of the references it's from 2005 or 2, usually we reject because we know this researcher, they are not up to date. There is some published articles already, they have addressed this topic. So it should be up to date. And then the gap in the literature, and it ends the introduction with the specific objective. Okay, also remember the introduction to answer the rationale of your study, why you have conducted this study. So it's the research question, you should state that. Some discipline, they put their hypothesis or research question, and then this introduction, it will end with, therefore the study intends or aims to do that, this and that. So in the introduction, there is some mistake. Sometimes we notice that when we review the articles as reviewer or supervisors, sometimes the idea are not logically organized. So in order to avoid this, just remember the question of what's the aim of introduction, to address why study need to be done. Sometimes it's too long, it's more to literature review as the question that I got. So the how to solve this, just keep it focused, the introduction. Sometimes we see the topics in the introduction does not match with the topics in the result and discussion. Immediately we know that they wrote it before the discussion. So how to solve this? Just write it last after discussion. Cited studies, sometimes it's not up to date since 20 years back. So try to cite in the introduction reference less than 5 years. Okay, this is the thumb of rule for introduction. Methodology, as I told you, we can accept even some references from 50 years back if there is no, if this is the method that usually the researcher they use it. Sometimes cited studies are very biased, like geographical bias. So try, especially if you are targeting wide audience, try to make your research internationally. But this is not the last one. It does not apply for any all studies, all types of study. Let's move to the methodology. Let me just check the time. Oops. Almost 1 hour. So the methodology, you have in the section of the methodology, now it's not the abstract, the method in the abstract, it's in the methodology. You should write it in details, but it's different from thesis because in thesis, it's more in depth in details. But here, it should be enough to be replicated. So if other researcher in China, in Europe, in the US wants to replicate your work, they can based on the details that you provide in the methodology. We call it, it should be reproducible. You should use subheadings sometimes. And the sequence of your methodology, it should be, you are telling stories, so it should have logical sequence. Sometimes for some research, if it's very complicated, you can add flowchart or table to summarize the experimental design. If you are using valid or well-known method, just say, don't describe all the methodology. This method according to this and that, and cite the reference. No need to describe. But if it's with modification, after you say this method according to, and you cite the reference, with slightly modification briefly, and then after briefly, you will describe the modification that you have done. Okay. Of course, you have to identify the equipment materials. Some also scientists or students, they forgot to mention the source of the equipment and materials. The source, I mean the brand and the country. I remember one of my students, she worked on compound from Sigma for half of her study. And then she ordered the compound from other source from China. She got really completely different result. And we did some investigation for this compound. We realized it's degraded compound. we use HPLC to analyze this compound. So why we ask the researcher to write the brand, the country? Because if others, they want to replicate your result, your method, they will, if they got different results, they can argue you, unless if they use different materials from different source. The frequencies, all the details. Of course, if you are doing a human study or animal study or questionnaire based, you have to get the ethical approval. Just yesterday, one of my colleagues from other faculty, he submitted his manuscript. It's in other field of study. It's not related to science, social science. And it's survey-based. And the journal, they asked him for written consent and for ethical approval. He didn't request for that. He didn't realize when he started his study that he needs to apply for ethical, although it's not medical study. But since you are your participants, you have human participant, you have to get ethical clearance before you conduct your experiment. Okay, so of course, also in the methodology, you should explain if it's on human, the criteria for selecting your participant, name the statistical, the methodology, it should end with statistical analysis. So what's the tools? Is it parametric, non-parametric? What's the p-value, the average, all those things. Usually what tense we use for writing methodology? Past tense, because remember, it's what you have done. So I have a question here. You should use voice, active voice or passive voice for writing the methodology. Actually, again, it depends. For the US, they prefer active voice. British style, and here in Malaysia, they prefer passive voice. So here the passive, all participants were interviewed. While the active is to determine the efficacy of the program, we interviewed all participants. But remember, if you are writing your article, it's acceptable to write we if you are using voice. But if you are writing thesis, it's better to you should write I, because this thesis is representing you, or try to avoid active voice and use the passive voice. Sorry, someone wants to talk. I mean, if it's question, because I'm sure I will answer most of the question later on, but if there is any thing else, please let me know. Okay, so mostly it's, I prefer actually for, especially the methodology, the passive voice, unless you are targeting journal using the US style. So in this case, better to use active voice. I have one slide for tenses later on. Okay, so this is the sequence, what was studied. So the material, the instrument, remember to add the brand, the manufacturer, the country, the databases, how the study was done. So all the procedure, the characterization, and then the statistical analysis, p-value, all those things. Let's move to the results section. This section should present your finding. Again, you should have story and it should have the same sequence as the methodology. So the mistake that the students usually they do, they start to discuss and interpret their result during the result. Don't do that. In the result section, just summarize the result without saying it indicates or this suggests, because you will do that in the discussion section, unless, this is the exception, unless you are targeting journal, they have not Emirates format, they have the other format, which they merge both result and discussion together as one section. Yes, you can actually immediately after you introduce your result, you can start discussing your results. You can base your sequence of the result based on the tables and figures and graphs. Of course, you have to emphasize the significant finding, but again, you have also to report the negative finding. Okay, tables, this is another mistake usually the students, they forgot. They don't cite the tables, figures in the text. So remember, you have to cite. If you have figure 1, just say figure 1 shows and then briefly summarize, or just start summarize the finding and end the summary with figure 1 or table 1. Figures and tables, it should have legend. So the legend for tables and figures, it's below the table. So all abbreviation in the figure should be explained or defined. The abbreviation, you should define them in the legend. also the statistical tools that you use, or the n, is it 6 or 5, or how many participants? Is it the mean plus minus standard deviation or standard error, mean comparing to control group, your data, or what? All those should be explained in the legend, in the table. Because, so this is the important rule. Figures, the figure legends and figure itself, figure legend, it should be self-explanatory, which means if sometimes as researcher, I don't have time to read the whole article. I will read only title abstract, and then I'll go to the tables and figures. So I should understand the whole topic from just looking, having a glance at your figures and tables. Okay, so how to present the data? I will just finish result and discussion part. After that, I'll have a break before I go to the editorial process. So how to present the data? There is different format. So this is general rules or general guideline, but you could follow different guidelines. If you have specific numbers, especially if you have too many groups, better to use table, don't use graphs. If you have time trending, you use different concentration and you want to see the relationship, better to use line graph. Present your data as line graph. If you are comparing between different value, the average of first group or first with the second group or different parameters, better to use bar graph. For parametric analysis, if it's non-parametric, you have to use box plot. Like chi-square, better to use box plot. If it's your data, it's proportion, percentage, so pie chart. Process, if it's process, it's better to have illustration like flow chart or schematic or flow diagram like signaling pathway. If it's appearance, like in histopathology, or you have image, it's better to use drawing or photograph. Actually, there is another workshop I do it for statistical analysis and presentation of data. It's different, so I'll not go in depth. Let's move to the discussion. Discussion, as I told you, the tips of the triangle, it's at the top. So, which means you should start with very, very focused statement, summary of your finding or the conclusion, and then the relevance of your finding to others by discussing the similarities and difference, unexpected results or negative results, limitations. So you see, you expand your discussion because now you are comparing with the literature. And then finally, the clinical implication. The mistake that most students, they restate their result again. Don't repeat the same paragraph that you wrote it in the result. You can introduce the result to discuss, but it shouldn't be the same paragraph that you wrote in the result section. Okay, you can discuss also general or specific conclusion, but it shouldn't be same as abstract. Remember, you should link this section to the introduction again. So when you write your introduction, your hypothesis, where it should be addressed in the discussion. In the discussion, it's the answer of your research question or answer of your hypothesis. So I just I will skip this one, similarity and difference in the discussion, negative and result and limited. Otherwise, the reviewer, they will ask you why you haven't discussed your negative results and the limitation of your result. Suggest further experiment, which is recommendation or future directions. In the discussion, this is another mistake students they do. They don't. They introduce new term, new outcome. So don't introduce new outcome here. Already you have done your result. Okay. So limitation. How you can introduce your limitation? Yes, you have to address your limitation, but there is way. So can you see it's the same limitation? So the limitation of this study, it's the small sample size. But can you see how different researchers or the writing style, how they address the limitation? So the first one, I want to ask you, where is the stress position of this sentence? Is it the close or the start of the sentence? It's the close. Most of the sentence, it's the close. So here, this researcher, they started with, although our survey, the good news, although our survey demonstrates that postnatal depression is common, but this is the bad news or the limitation. The study was limited by a small sample size. So this is the main stress. So it's not good, don't do that. While here you can see the clause, which is the main stress of stress position of the sentence, and its long main clause. it's the good news. So they started with the limitation, although the study was limited by its sample size. However, our survey demonstrates that this and that, so it's long. So it's the same. Both of them, they have addressed the same limitation, but this is the way how, otherwise, sometimes if you use this style, sometimes the reviewer, they will reject the article because they will say, repeat the experiment on larger sample size. Conclusion, the last part of the manuscript, it should be supported with evidence. So don't overestimate, avoid undue speculation at this stage. If you don't have finding, it support this conclusion, don't add this conclusion. So all the conclusion, it should be supported by the finding. This is the main mistake. Actually, we reject the manuscript as a reviewer or editor because their conclusion, it's kind of overestimation. The result should be directly supported by the conclusion. Okay. Let's move conclusion. So I'll just skip. So usually the conclusion, it depends. There is different style, but what's the content of conclusion? It starts with the main conclusion or main summary or the most important finding of your study, that key finding after that. So here, this is the message from the whole story, from the whole manuscript. Then here, the significant finding, the implication, the impact of your research, because each study conducted, it should have impact. And then recommendation of future directions and importance. You can also ignore the importance. It depends actually on your study, because I understand there is different discipline, but acknowledgement, of course, after conclusion, you have to acknowledge those they have contributed, but it's they don't deserve to be part of the authorship. So it should be brief. You should acknowledge the financial or the grant that it supports your study. And of course, nowadays, all journals, they request to report if there is any conflict of interest. So if there is any kind of conflict of interest, like financial or personal, like you are working on drug and who supported your study, it's the same pharmaceutical industry who produced this drug. Here, there is conflict of interest. So there is kind of bias. Since they are supporting you, so your result will have such kind of bias. So you should report. Otherwise, if they discover after that, they will retract. I'll show you the retraction part later on. It's kind of misconduct. References, nowadays we have different tools, online tools like, different software like EndNote, Mendeley. So it's important to use it for referencing and for citation. Why we have to add citation or reference? Because your research, it's not the first study. You are building on the published work. And this is how we create the knowledge, by building on published studies. But if there is common knowledge, especially in the introduction, and it's not must to cite a reference. But if it's study conducted by others, in this case, yes, you have to recognize their work and cite their work. Of course, sometimes you have to add, if they have, take quotes from their study, then you should put it in, not just only cite their work. If you use the same statement, then it should be in quotation mark. Okay, read also the author guideline of the journal to see which reference style, because nowadays we have thousands of reference style. Each journal, it has different style, and in order to select this style based in EndNote or Mendeley, you have to read the author. Each journal, in the first page, they have guideline for the authors. Okay, and in the writing, because this is another mistake, in the writing, usual citation it's at the end. But if you start your discussion by saying author name reported or author name it suggested, then the parenthesis, it should be on the year. So which means in using EndNote, you should remove the authors here. You should write authors, while the citation is just only the year. Okay, linking words. If you look at any building, what's the most important part of the building that it links the different blocks? It's cement. So I can say this linking words for your manuscript, it's the cement for the building. And there is alternative. Luckily, we have alternative keywords. to make the reading experience enjoyable. So instead of saying and, or also, furthermore, in addition, additionally, moreover, sequence, especially in the methodology, when you write your methodology and there is different procedure, you can start with first, second, after that, then next. For cause and effect, not all the time use because. You can use therefore, thus, consequently, contrast, not just only in contrast, although, however, whereas, while, condition. So I think if you search the literature, there is different alternative keywords. So it's important. Otherwise, when we read some articles, if they are not using really those linking words, it's kind of boring. You'll realize it's boring reading. Silly mistakes. Usually the students they do the silly mistakes. For me, I don't really like those silly mistakes. I don't forgive those silly mistakes, like typo mistake. Why I don't? I think it's silly because nowadays the word itself, it has, if you activate the function of grammar and spelling, all of us, I know, we are not native speaker. Although we are not native speaker, but the word itself, it allows you to correct if there is any typo mistake. So it's really, as a reviewer or as supervisor, I'd prefer to spend my time to focus on the scientific content, not just only to correct the typo mistake. You have to pay attention to the guideline, how many words for the abstract or the whole manuscript, page count, page counts. If you use abbreviation, you have to define those abbreviation for first time. So some they just introduce the abbreviation. You should follow the instruction according to the journal. Okay. I think I have covered all those, so I'll just escape. So what is this? Let me, because I can't see. Yes. How to write different sections. So this is general also idea. I have covered all of them. So, but general rules. Remember, for each sentence or each paragraph, it should be addressed one idea first, and it shouldn't be one sentence too long. So try to split long sentences into 2 or 3 sentences. Try to avoid unnecessary words. Keep it simple. Use active writing. It's more direct. I think I have given here example. Carbon dioxide was consumed by plants. It's passive, but the active, the plant consumed carbon dioxide. So which one do you think it's more direct? I think the active, unless you are talking journal, the journal with the passive. Tenses. If you are talking about facts, better to use present tense. I think I'll make break after a while and I'll get your question. So excuse me until I finish those, the last few slides. Present tense, if you are talking about facts, for methodology, you have to use past tense. I think I have here, you can see the difference between past and present tense at different sections. So if you are saying figure 1, you should use present tense, shows. You cannot say because now it's in the manuscript. But when you explain your result, then you can use past tense. When you discuss your finding, present tense again, the finding suggest or indicate. If with S, so without S here, the finding singular suggests this and that, demonstrate or demonstrates. So generally, if you are stating an accepted fact, so what types of tense or implication, either in the introduction or in the discussion. I'm referring now to section, introduction, discussion. Better to use present simple if you are stating accepted facts or implication, like here, even implication or finding have implication. If you are referring to past studies, both in the introduction or discussion, when you compare your result in the discussion or stating previous studies in the introduction, use what tense? Present perfect. So group therapy has been shown. Previous studies have been reported, this and that. If you are reporting an account or what you have done in the methodology usually, or in the result, in this case, you have to use past simple, either in active or passive voice. We used active or have were used or whatever. So which voice we should use, active or passive? As I told you, use American people, they prefer active. We conducted, they prefer, they have this power, we or I, we conducted review of this. We investigated, but you cannot say in your thesis, I told you we, you should say I, if you are using active. But British people, they a bit shy, they prefer the passive. So a review of 50 cases was carried out. The mechanism regulating enzymes were investigated. So you have to look at the journal that you are targeting, if they use passive or active voice, and then just use it. Okay. Abbreviation and acronyms and initialism, you should define for first time. I'm sure you know the difference between those. Abbreviation are different than acronyms and different than initialism. Perhaps you can search. I don't have really time to explain the difference between those three things. So what I want to say here, for first time in your article, you have to define, spell it out. Okay, what is IP? Intravenous centimeter. Punctuation, some they don't aware about punctuation. Comma before respectively, comma after additionally. Just to tell you how the punctuation, it makes difference. Can you just read those two sentences and see the differences? I didn't change any words. It's the same wording. I just sent the punctuation. So the first statement saying, women without hair, men is nothing. While the second statement saying, women without hair, men is nothing. What about the meaning? Is it same or different? It's completely different. Sorry?
It's different, Professor.
Yeah, so you see, I didn't change any words. It's just only the punctuation. So please pay attention to punctuation. British or American, this is really, to me, it's silly mistake. I forgot to mention that under silly mistake. If the scientists or my students, they do it. Why? Because again, there is function in the word itself to activate either the US language or British language. You should check your journal color. Is it so it's in UK? You should add U. In American without. So I have seen actually even from scientists as a reviewer or as editor, they have mixture between in the same article from American and British. Sometimes we forget if it's they submit to British journal and they use American, but the whole throughout the manuscript they are using one style. But some they use mixture. And actually to avoid this, again, we are not native speaker, but there's function in the word. Just activate that function, activate the language that you want to use. British from the beginning. So it will give you the red underline to tell you there's spelling mistake. So again, it's really silly mistake. Numbers, how to write numbers. So general rules, if it's between 1 to 9, less than 10, it should be written as, it should not be numeral, which means you should write it, spell it out. 2 experiment, 6 mice, if it's less than 10. There is exception unless you are referring to finding, there is unit. So you cannot spell it out, 3 ml, it should be numeral. But if the number is more than 10, even if it's not with units, it's better to write it as number. So 12 students, 25 participants, 100 participants, and so on and so forth. But there is exception, unless the number, the sentence starts with number. You cannot remember, you cannot start your sentence with number. It should be, you should spell it out, like 506 patients were as passive voice, or in the active voice, we recruited. Or in this study, just add statement totally, or in this study, 506 patients used. So to avoid just examples of certain sentence that to make it more focused. Instead of saying at a concentration of this, just add 2 grams. Instead of saying at a temperature, it's at 37, because since you added the unit, degrees Celsius, we know it's temperature. So what's the point to add the temperature? In the first place, first, subsequent, after. Those are examples that you, when I review some articles, to me, it's unnecessary. It's well known that just write it. Most of the trials, This another reason, just write it therefore, make it simple. As described in our previous studies, that just as described previously, and then you cite the articles. So of course, we have different tools for reference management, not just only EndNote and Mendeley. We have other tools. It helps you to remove duplicate, do citation, and different tools. This is different tools for grammar checkup. Some of you, they use Ginger or Grammarly or White Smoke. So there's different tools. And those tools, it's to capture the similarity. You know, nowadays, we can, the students, they cannot do copy and paste because we have the Turnitin tool. Other tools to capture the similarity and plagiarism. So I have listed here too many tools actually. So Turnitin, something, it comes up at the end, something like this with percentage of similarity, and it's different color. So below in UM, usually we accept maximum 25. Most of the journals, by the way, even including the journal that I'm editor, is under Web Science, we accept up to 25%. So it comes as green color, yellow color more than 25 to 30, I think, and then orange color and red color. And it comes the report like this. So all the parts that you copy and paste, it comes to us after we use this tool to see the similarity. It tells us you have copy and paste this part from this reference number 15. This sentence, it comes from those and that, and then it gives us final percentage of similarity. So usually once you submit before it goes to me as editor, we have admin, usually they do the similarity, and if it's more, let's say 50%, we reject straight away. So it should be less than 25%. And not just only it gives you overall, it gives you the different references that you got those statements from. And even sometimes we reject not just only if the statement lists, sometimes it's less than 25, but the first reference, it's 20. So all the copy paste, it's from the first reference. So try to avoid that. Last part, I think, it's the misconduct and plagiarism. There is different term here, not just only copy and paste, it's plagiarism. Sometimes most students, they are not aware about this, self-plagiarism. If you duplicate your publication, you submit your article to journals, it's kind of misconduct. Or if you use figure, only one graph, 2 times in 2 papers, you have to, what's the safe method to reuse your work? It's not belong to you. There's copyright issue. You have to contact the journal and get permission to reuse it. Salami slicing, I'll explain in the next slide. We have also ghost authorship and fraud. Do you know what is ghost authorship? Some researcher, they conduct the whole work and they get paid, and then other researchers, they publish this work under their names. So, and they haven't conducted the whole research at all. Example of misconduct, if they have conflict of interest and they don't disclose, you should disclose the conflict of interest. Of course, plagiarism, it's kind of misconduct. Simultaneous submission, don't submit your article. Some students, they don't have time, so they submit their manuscript at the same time to 2 journals. Don't do that, it's misconduct. Fraud, 2 types of fraud or misconduct. We have fabrication and falsification. So what are the difference between both? Fabrication, you haven't conducted any experiment, you make up the whole data. Falsification, you conducted the experiment and then you got negative results, so you manipulate your data. All those also is misconduct. Salami slicing, it's simply you have one outcome and you conducted different experiment for this outcome and you published 2 articles for the same objective. So you are slicing your work into 2 manuscripts. It's also types of misconduct, unless you have another objective, it's not. So again, if there is any types of misconduct, it will, the journal, if they realize that, they will put this big red stamp, retracted. So your article, it won't be withdrawn. It will stay there in the website or online forever. And all researchers, they will come and see this stamp and they will read the story. Why it's retracted? Because they will mention maybe because you did fabrication, you manipulate your data. So you will put in, not just only your article will be stamped with this, you will be put in the, they will put you in the blacklist So all journals, they will not accept any articles from you, not just only you and the whole team. So can you imagine now the role of corresponding author? Because again, it's the main responsible is the what they call it, the corresponding author. Actually, there is different website. The most important one that usually they report this misconduct and then they inform the journals. Have you heard about Restriction Watch? This is the website, and each day there is a few stories about misconduct. Just Google Restriction Watch and you will see the story, many stories about, and there is people from, I heard about scientists from Taiwan and also from Korea, they suicide after they their papers reported of misconduct or restricted. I think we'll have a break now.
Waves behave like part.
So I will get your question. We have break for 5 minutes, and then the last part is I'll go a bit faster. I know we don't have time. So if anything related to writing, I thought I would reach this slide before half an hour. That's why I put it as coffee break. So I'll drink my coffee and then I'll ask you just to find the 6 hidden words, because there is 6 hidden words. But since I leave it here anyway, I'll leave the slide here. I'll get your question. Those who are interested, please, you can type, just have a look at here. If there is any hidden word, you can read it. Just type it in the Zoom. So do you have any questions so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, thank you. Like the session is going extremely informative session. I wish we had more time. First question, sir, quickly. Will you be sharing this presentation with us, or with the university, or how is it?
Unfortunately, no, because there's copyright issue.
I
this.
understand.
Actually, I conduct this seminar as workshop. It's not seminar, and it's paid. Usually, other universities, even I did it internationally for India, for other countries. Usually, they arrange with me and with my university, and it's paid hands-on or workshops, and I provide them with all the materials, not just only with the slides, and it's usually hands-on. And part of this payment, it goes to university, UM, and back to me. But this seminar, it's free of charge. It's voluntary based from my side. So thank you, sir. It's recorded.
But for in the future, if there is any advice or mentoring required from you, like, can we email you? I don't know if that is allowed, or if we can take your email and, some, obviously we will not disturb you, but just, very key advice, like in the future,
sure.
Okay. So second important question is, obviously it's a very detailed presentation, but I just wanted to know, when we write the proposal, there are 3 things which I understood. There is abstract, there is research proposal, and the final thesis. So I think your presentation is more about the thesis, the final manuscript, right?
It's not more to thesis. It's more to the manuscript after you complete your work, because in thesis it's again different format and different style of writing and more comprehensive. So my seminar today is about manuscript. Proposal, it's another workshop.
But the proposal, will it be so detailed when we send the proposal for the first approval? Like, will it be so detailed, or
methodology? Yes. So in the proposal, there is no result or discussion. Usually it's the introduction and literature review, and then after that the methodology. So in the proposal, we focus more on the introduction, the rationale, why you want to conduct the study, the objectives, the research question and hypothesis, and then the methodology.
So till methodology, yes, because results and discussion we are yet to discover. Understood. Yes. And abstract will be abstract is the first stage, which is just 300 words, the beginning, right? Yes, this is for manuscript, but proposal, usually there is no abstract, most of, Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Professor?
Yes, sure.
Thank you for the valuable lecture you are giving to us. My question is, is there any criteria for taking sample size?
Yes. So again, there is different tools. It's another workshop for sample size calculation. And is it for human studies or animal studies? And different software and different tools, online tools, how to calculate your sample size based on the power analysis.
Professor, my second question is, while we are designing our research proposal, we tend to have some objectives in our mind, but once we completed our research work, we tend to got some other objectives to be accomplished in our research. Can we add those objectives in the research, or it is mandatory to just maintain the old objectives?
Yes, it's true. Even sometimes my students, they start with different objectives or different topic, and then after they conduct the first two experiments, we realize there is or we realize something else, and then we change the article, we change the proposal. So it's still okay. It depends. You have to discuss with your supervisor. If you have to expand your research or add another objective or omit one objective, yes, it happens. Because this is the research.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Well, thank you for the very deep presentation.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. I'm one of the participants that I write in the chat. You hear me?
Yes.
When I did my review, I found some mistakes in the chemical structure and name of the compound. In your opinion, what should I do as I evaluate the previous research? What should I do? Ignore these mistakes in my evaluation, or what I did should?
No, you have to address those. That's why, especially for review, literature review, or if you write systematic review, we call it critic. You should criticize the previous literature, but you should have evidence. Otherwise, if you publish your article and then if you introduce any limitation of the previous literature, the researcher, the authors, they will argue. They will say, no, you have said this and that, which is wrong. So you should provide evidence. So don't write unless really you are expert and you know this is a mistake and you have evidence. So if the authors, they contact the editor and they come back to you, you have this evidence. You can discuss and argue. I can see if you already have gotten those hidden words. Quiz, yes. Learn, right, yes.
Okay, could I ask the another one as I did my systematic review? Could I ask?
Systematic review, again, it's another workshop usually I conduct it, and it's 2 days, full days, from 9 until 5 p.m., 2 days. So it's another story. I'll not go really in details. Learn, yes, quiz, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So,
hello, assalamu alaikum, Professor.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
Yeah, my has to do with the acknowledgement aspect.
Yes.
Assuming the data analysis was done by a member of editorial team, and now after the work, you are acknowledging him. Does it form a good ethical basis?
No, but it's his right or her right to acknowledge her, since they have done statistical analysis. All of us as scientists, sometimes we are not really expert in every area. So if you are not expert in statistical analysis, you have to consult statistician. So, but you have to acknowledge his contribution under the acknowledgement. But if this not just only conducted, he or she not just only conducted the statistical analysis, he involved in the writing or reviewing and interpretation, then he deserves to be added in the author list. So it won't add credit to your manuscript, because usually the reviewer and editor, they will focus more on the scientific merit, not just, because we assume that you are selecting the right and correct tools for statistical analysis. Okay, we have 15 minutes. If you excuse me, I'll go quick through the second part, and then I'll answer your question, because some of you, I'm sure they want to leave at 5. Those they have question, perhaps they can stay after 5. I'll try to answer the other question. Sorry for that. So you are right. So learn here, report, it's here. Quiz, you got it right, it's here. But I think, so how many words? Learn, report, quiz, test. I'm not quite sure you got test here. Let me get the pointer. Right,
It
but
seems that to be in test.
there is one word, it's study. It's a bit here. I'm not quite sure if you can see study. But anyway, I'll just leave. It's just for entertainment. Usually I pause this photo for my students during the breaks. Let me just check this title. Selecting, yeah. Let's move to the second, completed the first part. So how to find the correct journal is important because you will target your audience. Again, I repeat, submit your article to one journal per time. And check the reference, how to select the journal. There is different tools I'll show you now to help you to select the journals. But generally, you have to check your reference. You will realize that most of the reference, it's from certain journal. So this most common journal in your references, it could be your journal, the journal that you should select for your article. The other way how to select journal, for me, I'm using this method also. As scientist or researcher, I have a list of all journals in my area. And I arrange those journals based on the impact factor and ranking. So my area, it's in molecular pharmacology, in oncology. So I have a list of journals in molecular pharmacology. I have a list of journals for metabolic syndrome, because this is another area of my research. I have other area is toxicology. So I have list of journals for toxicology. So especially academic staff, they should have this list. And then also there is other criteria to select the journals. It should be this journal relevance to your topic. That's why you have to check the aim and scope of the journal. The other criteria to select the journal, sometimes it's not just only relevance. The duration. Some students, they want to publish their article, they don't have enough time. So they have just 6 months. Can you mute your mic? Mushir? Dr. Mushir, can you mute your mic? So the host, can you just inform him? So the duration of publication, sometimes if you want to publish your article fast, then you have to check the duration of acceptance. How you can check this one? Just go to the journal website and download 5 articles and see. Usually each journal, they record when this article first submitted and after how long it accepted. And then get the average of 10 articles, you will get the this duration. Some journals, especially for review, they accept by invitation, so don't submit if it's by invitation, which means they will not accept. They just invite the experts in the area. Some they need. I think I have covered publication timeline. Size of print. What does it mean? One of the criteria to select the journal, they want to submit to a journal who have 12 size or issue, 12 issue per year, because the possibility of acceptance, it's more as compared when you submit to journal, they have 2 issue per year. The other criteria for selecting journals, acceptance and rejection rate. Do you know what's the rejection rate for most of the journals? It's less than, most of the journals less than 20, and some journals it's less than 10, 4%, the acceptance rate, which means if it's 5% or 4%, 96, if 100 articles submitted, about 96 articles will be rejected. How you can do that? There's tools I'll show you in the next.
You want aloo paratha? You want what? They're buying dinner from here very now. So just me know. I don't know buy sag and chicken.
Or subscribe journal. Here you have to consider two aspects. The cost. If you afford to pay, go for open, and then the copyright. But if you subscribe, if you don't pay, you will not own the copyright issue. You have to read, of course, the aim and scope of the journals, because this is the main mistake. Some students, they submit to any journal without reading the aim scope, and immediately they will get rejection because it's not under the scope of the journal. Of course, you have to read the guideline for the authors. What's the difference between open and subscribed? Usually open, you have to pay fees, and you still get the copyright issue. But if you submit to, we call it either green open access or subscribed, you don't need to pay. Usually the library subscription they pay, or the reader they pay, but you don't own the copyright. You can just only post in your blog or ResearchGate the preprint of your article. What's the tool? If, let's say, you don't have list of journals, you check the references in your article and you couldn't select journal, you don't have other criteria. There is tools like, if you are interested to publish in Elsevier or Science Direct, there is thousands of journal under Elsevier. So how you do it? Just click this or Google Journal Finder under Elsevier. So what you have to do, just so it will ask you to post put your title. So this is the website. So this is good tool. Usually, sometimes I use it to find the journal. So you add your title here and your article abstract only here, and select if you want to publish in open or subscribed, and then click find the journal. So after you click find the journal, you will get this, something like this. It will give you different suggestion with different journals arranged based on the matching. This is 100% match your article. And it does not just only give you the matching score, it will give you the acceptance rate. So this journal have 25% acceptance rate. And the impact factor, the impact factor is 3.7. And the time for to first decision before they send it to the reviewer is 3 weeks. Time to publication, 7 weeks. So it will give you different. So just select one of those. Not just only Science Direct, they have these tools. Even Springer, it's another database. They have same tools. You just put your title abstract, and then it will tell you what's the best journal, but only journals under these databases. Web Science or Clarifate, they have also the same tools. Again, title and abstract, and it will tell you, it gives you the same. If your criteria to select the journal is the impact factor, there is different impact factor based on Web Science. I'm sure you know GCR. So usually they calculate what we call it impact factor. I'll not go in details how they calculate. This is the formula how to calculate the impact factor. Some students or scientists, they want to target the high impact factor 4, 5, 10. So it reflects the quality of the journal, actually, the impact factor. Let me get the pointer. Why it's not in the... Anyway, I think I'm trying to get the pointer, but anyway, it's okay. So the impact factor, it reflects the quality of the journal, because if the journal, they publish more articles than the citation that they get for their articles, then the impact factor will be less, will be reduced. Scopus, it's another databases. They have CIMEGO journal rank. So here, journal citation report or GCR, here SGR. It's not impact factor, they call it in Scopus SGR. It's also in number. For Google Scholar, they have what we call it publish or perish ranking. So this is journal under Web of Science or Clarifate. So you see the impact factor for this journal, iteration review, it's 6.5. And the ranking, I don't know why I cannot see. It's about Q1. So all the information you can get it. How many issues per year? What's the category of this journal? The publisher, it's Oxford. So all the information. And not just only the impact factor of last year, even the previous years. All the journals under Web Science and arranged under 4 category, tier 1 or Q1, tier 2, 3. So the top 25% of the journals in this category, we call it Q1. So it's the high ranked journal. So it's arranged like this, the top based on the impact factor. In Scopus, they have the same ranking, but as I told you, we call it Senego Journal Report, Journal Ranking, SJR. So they have also ranking Q1, Q2, and they have not impact factor, we call it SJR, Senego Journal Ranking. Each index, the last thing, each index, so impact factor, it reflects the journal quality, but each index, it reflects the scientist reputation. So I'm not quite sure if you heard about the H index. So usually if you have 10 articles and each article have different citation, just to get your H index, just sort it out. Sort your articles based in ascending, based on the number of citation. So the first paper should be the one that got highest citation, and so on and so forth. So your H index, it's the number, the paper rank that it got the same citation number or more. So what's the H index here? Can you tell me? For this researcher A, it's 4. Why 4? Because article number 4 got citation exactly same or more this number. We cannot say H index for this researcher 5 because the number of citation for article number 5, it's less than 5. If it's 5, then his H index 5. Can you tell me what's the H index for researcher B? This is another scientist. What's the H index?
Number 4.
4.
Also 4, yes. Because why? The first article, he got 1,000 plus citation. Second article, 100 plus 50. And the fourth article, it got only 4 citation. So the number of citation, it's the same as paper ranking. So both of them, they have the same H index 4. But it's unfair, actually, tools to assess the reputation because you can see the difference between researcher E, B, and A. Researcher B, for the first 2 articles, he got too much citation as compared to researcher A. But many websites actually like they use this tool, the H index. So for Web Science, this is my H index for Web Science, it's 14. Scopus also, they use the same H index. So here you can see my H index at Scopus, it's 14. Sometimes it's not matching. Sometimes your H index here may be 15 and in Web Science it's 14. Why? Because each databases, they have different journals. Remember when I compare between Scopus and Web Science? Google Scholar also, they have H index and it's completely different. So my H index at Web Science and Scopus 14, but here it's 17. So you see the difference? Because again, here in Google Scholar, it includes all the articles, even if it's published not under Scopus and Web Science. So H index, it will tell you the reputation of this researcher and how many citation he or she got. Okay, let me just check. So
Sir, what is the purpose of H index? I didn't understand. Like, why is it?
The universities, they use it to hire their academic staff or researcher. They use it for promotion. If you want also to select collaborator international, so just look at not just only publication, because some researcher, they publish too many articles, 100 articles. But when you look for, if anyone cite their article, nothing, maybe just 10 citations. So it reflects that he published rubbish, or maybe it's not significant. I cannot say rubbish, I can say it's not really significant. It does not add to the field. So it gives you indication for you can actually check your citation or your H index if you publish more than 1 or 2 articles. You can create Scopus and you can create Google Scholar. I've covered that under the how to promote. So just general rules for submission, read the aim and scope. first step. After you select the journals using the tool that I show you, you have to read the aim and scope. You have to read the guide for the authors. Okay, and you have to follow the journal format, entitled, abstract, introduction, if the result with that discussion comes together, the references, all those things. Also, you have to download 5 to 10 articles from the same journal and just look at the format to follow the same format. Okay, as most journals, they will ask you to write cover letter. So in this cover letter, you have to state that this work is original. It has been not submitted to other journals. All authors agree to contribute. But the most important, you have to write what's the significance of your research, of this manuscript, to convince the editor, because the editor, as editor, what I read first when the manuscript it comes to me, I read title, abstract, and then the cover letter. If I am not convinced based on the title, abstract, and then the cover letter, I just reject straight away. Okay. So what's the process of editorial process? Of course, when you submit, it goes to the admin. Admin, they will check the Turnitin similarity, the scope. So admin, usually they reject if it's similarity very high or it's not under the scope. After that, if it passes the first stage, it comes to the editor, to us as editor. Then we can reject if it doesn't have the scientific merits or it's not novel or not original. If it passes the stage, we send it to the peer review process to the 2 to 3 reviewer from the field, and it should be from different countries. Okay, so the reviewer, they will go through the whole manuscript and then they will submit their comments to the editor. Usually, and they submit their final decision, either accepted, and this is rare, accepted with minor correction, again, this is rare, and or accepted with major correction, or rejected. Rejected, that's why, as I told you, the acceptance rate, sometimes it's just only 5 or 10. Most of journals, it's less than 20%. So the editor, if it's rejected, just will inform the authors. If it's accepted with minor or major, they will send the comments to the authors. You have to do all the correction. I'll explain that in a minute, and then resubmit. It comes again, especially if it's major, to the same reviewer, and then they will accept or reject. After that, if it's accepted, it goes through proofreading and then publication step. Those I think I have covered. You have to avoid plagiarism, because we check that. You have to check the aim and scope. I think I have covered that. So peer review process, there is 3 different type of reviewer, or 3 types of review process, either single-blinded, and this is the most common, which means as authors, you will not know who will review or who reviewed your articles, but the reviewer, they know you. We provide them with the list of the authors. The other types of review process, it's double-blind, which means both reviewer and authors, they don't know each other. Open, and this is rare, both. So you know who reviewed your article. Of course, there is, for editorial process, we have different guidelines like COP, I'll show you later on, and GPP for the process. I think, remember, you should have ethical approval. Usually we focus during the editorial process on all those aspects. The ethical, the plagiarism, fabrication, manipulation. We have tools for all those things. Authorship, conflict of interest. This is the common reasons for rejection. So ideas are not logically organized, poor presentation. So the research is good, but poorly presented or poorly written. The aim is not clear. The topic or this in the result discussion are not in the introduction. Topic in the introduction are not in the discussion. Methods are not clear. We are not quite sure about the ethics or variables. Wrong assumption. Negative result not discussed. Result repeated in the discussion section. Conclusion is not very focused. Citation is not up to date. So those are the most. So you can see this is the rejection acceptance rate. Most journals less than 20, and 80% usually rejected. And those are the most important reason. Poor content, the scientific merit, poor research. Language itself, sometimes if it's really it's not good, usually we reject. But sometimes if we understand that the authors, they are not native speakers, so sometimes we request just to edit the language by native speaker. So there's 3 scenarios, as I told you, or 4: rejection, major, and minor. So if it's your manuscript rejected, this is the end? No, calm down. It happens even for my students. I have one student already, she graduated. So her manuscript rejected for almost, I can say, 6 times. And finally accepted in tier 1, Q1 journal. She submitted even the number 4th or 5th time in tier 4, impact factor, very low impact factor. So the idea is just go through the comment, don't resend the article to other journal before you address the comments. Usually after rejection, they will provide you with the reason. So you have to revise your article and then resubmit. So don't worry, just try, don't give up. This is the idea. If it's major correction, so still hope, just consider all the comments, try to do, if they requested to do reanalysis or whatever, you have to do it. If it's minor correction, then it's almost accepted. So just do the correction, don't argue with the editor. If you disagree with the reviewer comments, then just address that. So how to prepare, so you have to respond, how to respond to the comments. You have to prepare your response letter in table format or any format. So you have to respond to every reviewer. As I told you, during the review process, usually there is 2 to 3 reviewers. So you have to list in the first column the comments, the second column is your response. And in your response, you have to refer in the manuscript where you added this correction, in which line, which page number. Try in the manuscript, in the revised manuscript, to use different color, highlighted. You can highlight the color. Okay, don't respond like this. So this reviewer, he said you have used different incorrect tools for analysis. So this reviewer, he said, it's very clear that you are not familiar with this analysis. So rude, isn't it? Don't be rude with the reviewer. Even if you disagree or the reviewer is not right, just address and provide evidence, provide references, argue with using polite language. Okay, proofing, if it's accepted, then they will send you at the end of the day PDF file to just proofread if there is a final mistake in the names, or they will provide you with the link. I mentioned copyright. If you submit to open access, you'll get the copyright. If not, to subscribe, you cannot post your article in ResearchGate or in your blog. You can post what we call it preprint. So what's the difference between preprint, postprint, and final article? Preprint, the article that you submit before the reviewer, they email you the comments, before you do the correction. We call it preprint. Postprint, it's your production, but before, after you do the correction of the reviewer. So you have done the correction, but the journal still haven't done the production. It's not in the final format. We call it postprint. The final article, of course, the journal after acceptance, they will convert your article into their production section. So this is the final published article. So if it's subscribed, you can post only the preprint. There is tools. I asked you about what we call it Sharpa. If you remember, during the Kahoot, Sharpa, Romeo. If you click or search for these tools, it will tell you if this journal accept, like here, I search in the website for +1, which is journal multidisciplinary. So in this journal, you own your copyright. So you can archive the preprint, the final, this is the preprint, or postprint, or final published articles. But other journal, this journal is Ethnopharmacology, it's under Elsevier, it's subscribed. So you can only archive in your ResearchGate the preprint and postprint. You cannot publish or post your published article because you don't have the copyright issue. So since per year, millions of articles published, you have to promote your work. This is the last part of article, but it won't take more than 3 minutes. So let's say your article published. This is the end? Yes, congratulations. You managed to publish, well done. You managed to publish your article, but this is not the end, especially for the academic staff. You have to promote your article. So how? You have to share it using social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. You have to attend seminars and conferences to explain about your work. You have to collaborate with international collaborator. You have to post your article in your personal page or institution page. You should create different profile in different platforms like Scopus, Orcid, Kudos, self-archiving for institution repositories. Sometimes you have to link also different author profile in your email. So this is my email. When I send my email after my name, so this is my affiliation, I put the link to Orcid, to Scopus, to my Google Scholar, because I assume the reader, they will click and see my research. So it's kind of promoting your article. There is, I mentioned about about the impact factor of the journals. Most journals, they started to have other tools, not just only impact factor, altmetrics, which will give us indication how many your articles downloaded or viewed or shared or saved. Those are few examples. So have you seen in the journals those? So this, if you remember when I told you during editorial process, there is guideline for us as editor, including GPP. I just did the article. So this article, the altmetrics, it's 105, which means it's saved or viewed in or shared in Twitter or LinkedIn 100 times, but number of citation is 20. So impact factor, it reflects the citation. Other journals like +1, this is the altmetrics. How many citation, how many saved, how many view. It's kind of another tools. Those few of our articles, you can see here, how many tweeted, how many cited in other places. So as researcher, you have to create, to promote your work, you have to create your own author file. Like here, I created, so, you know, for me as a researcher, I am a researcher, I am academic, so I teach biomedical science, MBBS, nursing, dental, and pharmacy. And also I have administrative work, but again, I am busy, I have many students as supervisor, but again, I found some time to create different, file at different platform to promote my work. So I'll show you now different website or different platform just to prove that I have created that for myself. So I advise you, either as student or even especially staff, you have to create those to promote your work. So I have platform, or I have site at Google Scholar, Orcid, Research ID, Scopus, Academia, Kudos, ResearchGate, LinkedIn, Loop. So this is my website at UM Expert, my institution. So I have CV is there. It includes my biography, and I keep it updated all the time. This is my Google Scholar, so it contains all the research, the citation, all the articles. This is my Orcid link. So it contains all the research, all the details. This is my Pipelon. It's for Web of Science. It includes the H-index and research. This is my Scopus. So all altmetrics, all the data. This is mine at Loop, Academia. This one is research. Let me just check, I cannot see. Yeah, this is Kudos. It's another good platform to promote your work. This is ResearchGate. So in ResearchGate, you can post even your article to increase the visibility, especially if you have the copyright. This is my LinkedIn. And the final message, start. So this is the last message and last slide. Sorry for, I'm running out of time. So you have to start writing your article from the beginning. This is the advice for the students. Don't wait until you complete your experiment. You have the methodology, you have started the first experiment, get it done. Write your methodology, write your result. Then spend enough time to read the literature. You have to read minimum per year, 100 articles. Be selective, don't read any article. You should use keywords relevant to your work. Acknowledge the original work, so you have to cite the original work. You should have publishing strategy, how many papers you will publish, and then promote your published work. course, using all those tools. And the 4 C's: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. And finally, I want you to see this video. It's just only half a minute. It's the main message for today. It's in YouTube. Let me just, so in this video, can you see my screen clear?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Prof. Can.
Why it doesn't stop? Okay, so in this half a minute video, they put nuts here in this beaker. So this is glass beaker. They put nuts, and they have asked different people, children, adults, to get the nuts from this beaker. So see how they remove, or they get this nuts, and then they show them how monkey, they did the same. So just enjoy. So what's the message from this video? Do you think those people, the children, the adults, they don't know the fact that if they put the water here in the beaker, the nuts will float? Do you think they don't have the knowledge? They have it. And they provide them with the resources. Have you seen the water? It's in the table. It's just only on the back. They have the water. So do you think the monkey, they are smarter than us? So the monkey, they have the knowledge, they just put their saliva and they got the nuts. So what's the message? What I'm trying to say, I give you too many tools today, too many tricks and tips. So this is the knowledge. And actually you can search the knowledge Google. Some of you asked for the materials for the slides. Actually the knowledge is available everywhere. You can Google it. But the main important point is how to use this knowledge. The skills, the critical thinking, the practice. So the final message, practice, read the literature, try to improve your skills. It's not just only the knowledge, it's how to use those knowledge. We have too many skills, but the difference between the success scientists or research or students and the unsuccess, it's how to use the knowledge. So this is the final message from today's seminar. Sorry, I'm running out of time. That's all from my side. I wish you all the best, and I am open to get your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. You can see the comments here in the Zoom chat. Really, it's very highly informative and excellent presentation and seminar and sharing knowledge. We have just some questions from participants. The first questions from one of the participants: how do we can differentiate between the empirical study and systemic literature review writing manuscripts?
For systematic review or even narrative review, usually you summarize the published articles. So you search using different alternative keywords, and you get all the primary studies, and then you summarize those results, and you should add your fingerprint by criticizing or just adding your opinion about those studies. While empirical studies, it's the research articles, the one who did the experiment itself.
Thank you very much, Prof. Another question: is there any general rules to write the tables and the figure?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is there any general rule to write the tables and the figures?
Yeah, as I told you, I give even some hints or some general rules for how to present your data. If it's numerical, it's better to go for tables. If it has relationship, it's better to go for line chart. So actually, it's again, it's another topic, but there is how we select the appropriate way how to present our data in figure or table format. Yes, there is general rules about it. So not all data we can use figure format or bar chart or table format. But I give you on this, if you go back later on to the recording, I give you general rules. So if it's number plus minus standard error and you have too many groups, better to go for table format, not figure format.
Thank you very much, Prof. Another question from another participant. Does setting the reference using the Mendeley gives no plagiarism, or there will be still plagiarism for the references?
No, it's two different things. Mendeley or EndNote, it's referencing manager. So it will help you to get the articles, to cite your articles in the, to also have the folders for all your articles. So it's kind of library. While Turnitin and other plagiarism tools, it's the tools that it gives the percentage of similarity. I have posted, I listed down different tools. I'm not quite sure about Mendeley, but I compare between those tools, it's free of charge. And there is the Turnitin, which we use in UM, it's subscribed. It's usually our institute, they pay for it. It's really very accurate as compared to the free tools. It gives you the correct percentage. So most of the journals, they are using Turnitin.
Thank you very much, Prof. Last but not least, it's my note related to your seminar. One student asked, may I ask your recommendations for participating before the Viva in conference? And how about what if the conference didn't accept the article for publication after that?
Actually, I would recommend it to participate in conference even before publication, publishing the article itself, not just only before FIFA. And if you if this conference they publish the abstract in even indexed journal like ISI journal, we call it proceeding abstract or proceeding paper. It does not prevent you from publishing the whole manuscript in another journal, but you have to rephrase your article. So of course, for the conference, you will not put everything in that abstract. It's general abstract. So usually the scientists and the students, they go for conference and after that they publish their articles. So it won't prevent you from publishing your articles, don't worry. But you have, again, you cannot use the same abstract if it's published by the conference. If the conference committee, they publish the abstract, you have to rephrase it.
Thank you very much, Prof. Last question from me. I have submitted one manuscript for the Lancet and I select there one options to be published as preprint, but unfortunately didn't accept it by Lancet. And then I submitted for another journals. The preprint published there, it's going to affect my submission for the another journal or no?
No, it won't affect. By the way, there is, I forgot to mention this. Nowadays, there is trending to submit your article to different websites where you can submit only preprint before the review, like Reflex. So there's website, just Google search for the preprint publication. Nowadays, we have the COVID-19, so we have the agency to publish any article before it goes through the review process, the peer review. So you can submit to those platforms, and again, the same article, so this is preprint. The same article, you can submit later on to any journal. It will go through the same editorial process and reviewer comments, and they will publish. So it won't prevent you again from publishing the preprint. I'm not quite sure about the Lancet, but some journal, even they don't accept to publish the preprint. It's, you have to read, after they accept your article, usually they email you the copyright agreement. You have to read this copyright agreement.
Thank you very much, Prof. Another questions now from another participant. Can I register in Orcid? So on Whale, I still didn't publish any article?
No. All those platforms that I mentioned, Orcid, Google Scholar, Scopus, only for those, they have more than 1 or 2 articles. So if you have already published, you can start create. But perhaps if you don't have any publication, you can start with LinkedIn and ResearchGate. For me, if you ask me, I don't have Facebook. I am more to the what they call it, professional websites like LinkedIn and ResearchGate. So for ResearchGate and LinkedIn, this is the start for those they don't have paper. And then once you get some publication, more than 2, you can create Google Scholar. You can create Scopus, Orcid, Babylon, Loop, you can use different platform. And different countries, there are different platforms. It's more popular in different countries. So while we are creating different platforms, to promote and to be visible at different countries. Some countries, they prefer only Google Scholar. Other countries, they prefer Loop, or even related to the area of expertise. Like Loop, it's more to the pharmacology. That's why I created the pharmacological aspect. Frontier, they use the Loop, and it's under Nature, the Loop platform. So to answer that, perhaps you can start with just ResearchGate and with LinkedIn. And after that, once you get publication, try to create. And easy to create different platform or website for you, a different platform. Just Google it. I have another workshop for feasibility and how to promote your work, how to create different file. And by the way, some of those tools, no need to update them annually. They update all your research. Once you publish your article, it captured by those platforms automatically, no need to update. But some of them you have to do it annually.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm not sure if there is any other questions from the participants. Do you have any questions to ask Professor Dr. Muhammad?
Actually, I have one question for the organizers. How to get this seminar is really useful and learned a lot out of it. Thank you very much, Professor. And can organizers tell us how to get subscribed to this series of webinars, because this is really useful and short and sweet, and we learned a lot out of it.
Thanks a lot. By the way, I like Dr. Q when he joined for first time. He posted his LinkedIn. I remember as first. If you go back to the chat, so this is one way also of promotion the work. Usually for me, even my published articles, I just share it with LinkedIn and so on and so forth. So that's why also another reason why I show you my website, a different platform. I want you to go and subscribe to my ResearchGate and LinkedIn, especially those related or relevant to my area, because it will create this kind of social media or platforms. It will help for collaboration as well.
Thank you very much, Prof. Is there any other question, please, from the participants?
Yes, my hand is already on. I don't know if I can go on.
Yeah, I can go on. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Mahmoud Balarabi. I'm calling from Kano, Nigeria. Yes. So, thank you so much, Prof. Please, I want you to define more between LinkedIn and Orcid. I have both, and I have a little publication which is not ready for publish, and I don't know how to paste my work on both the LinkedIn and Orcid. Thank you so much, sir.
So for LinkedIn, usually it's not like ResearchGate, or you can post the whole article as PDF file. Usually we just share. If you remember when I explained about Graphical Abstract or the link of your article, so once it's published, I share it. It's similar to Twitter or to Facebook when you share your daily activities. So if it's published, just share the link and then just add brief description for this word. So this is for LinkedIn. You can share. And also try to link or connect with as much researcher in your area as you can. So for my LinkedIn, I have more than 2,000. Most of them, they are related to my area. So when I published, they will see, and I share my article, they will see the article, they will read it. So they will cite my article, okay? While Orcid, it's another story. Actually, you have to create the Orcid, but you should have at least 2 or 3 people, and after that, it capture the published article. You need to do nothing, just only first time you have to create your archive, and then it updated by itself automatically. So sometimes it's really difficult to keep up to date all those platforms. It's a bit challenging, but it depends on you guys. For me, sometimes each 3 months, or those platform that I need to update it manually, I do it every 3 months or 6 months during the weekend. I just spend 2 hours during the weekend to update.
One quick question, please.
Sure.
So the question is, for copywriting, you showed some sites and some support system. For copyright, do we have to pay a charge? How does it work? Like, do they charge you for that?
For, why I introduced the copyright, it's because some scientists and students, when they submit their articles, they are not aware about the copyright issue. So if you submit during the submission to open access journal, you can post, in order to promote your work after acceptance, you can post the full article, the published version of the article in your ResearchGate, in your blog, in your institute site. So the journal, they won't tell you why you have done that, because you owe the copyright. But what's the disadvantages of this? When you submit your article to open access, you should pay the publication fees as a researcher, either from your own budget or from the university, your institute. So open access, you have to pay when you after the acceptance, not when you submit. But you can post the full article, the final published PDF, in any website to promote your work. The subscriber journals or subscribed types of journals, when you submit, if it's accepted, you don't need to pay. But you are not able to post your article, the final publishing PDF file, in ResearchGate or in Google Scholar or any platform. You can just only post the preprint. The preprint is the format that you submit to the journal before you get the comments from the reviewer. So.
Okay.
So it reduces what I'm trying to say. If you submit your article to subscribe, the other reader, they will just access the title and abstract. So most likely you will get less citation, because you don't have the right to promote the full article. Only you can promote the preprint file.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, I think if there is no other questions, we can end up.
Yeah, it seems that there is no other questions from the participants. With that, really, thank you very much, bro, for your informative and excellent session, and for your valuable knowledge that you share with us. Thank you very much for you to spread. Sometimes we know you have a very tight schedule. We really appreciated your times, and we wish that we can see you again, inshallah, in another session. Thank you very much.
Just only final comment, because some of the participants, they asked about my LinkedIn or ResearchGate link. I think just Google Muhammad Al-Shawish. You will find all of my platforms, including LinkedIn. And so my name is in the brochure or in the first slide. I'm sure this session is recorded. So just go back to the session. Either you can get the link in the last few slides that I shared, or just Google my name, Muhammad, my first name and surname, Muhammad Al-Shawish. You will find my ResearchGate, my LinkedIn and other platform. So you are most welcome to connect with me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Can see also the reflection from the participants. Really, all of them, they are very thankful for you and for your time, for the wonderful and insightful session. Thank you, Prof.
Thanks a
With
lot.
that, also, thank you very much for all participants who have participated.
Thank you very much for your valuable session, Professor.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Professor.
Most welcome.
Thank you,
Have a nice
sir.
weekend. Stay safe all.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Prof.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Prof. That was a great
Thank
one,
you
Prof.
so much,
Thank you.
Prof.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Have a nice day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. See you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Most welcome. Please stay safe and
Thank
healthy all.
you, thank you, thank you.
You are welcome, and thank you so much for all of you.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof.
Wa alaikum salam, Manan. Thank you so much, Muhammad.
Thank you so much, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Dr. Musher.
Most welcome, and thank you so much for all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musher.
Thank you. Please stay safe and healthy all. Take care. Okay, thank you very much for all. If you don't mind, we can end the session. Have a nice day, and please stay safe and healthy.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, later.